Morning everyone. Gandang maga po sa lahat. First of all, foremost, let me greet our good Vice President, the Secretary of the Department of Education, Secretary Sara Duterte, who's ably represented by Yusek Poa and the rest of the Undersecretary, Dr. Gina, Yusek Gina is also here. Let me also greet my partner, the host district for today, Congressman Roman Romulo. And let me also greet all the education stakeholders, all the education champions who are here with us today. There's so much to talk about after the presentation of Yusek Gina, but first let me congratulate Deped for taking the plunge in taking Pisa. Full disclosure, when I was talking to Yusek Dads and Yusek Maluluan, full disclosure, I was the minority who was not in agreement to take the Pisa in 2022. Because in my analysis, reforms take time. And we all know what will happen, what the results will happen if we don't fully implement the reforms. But I'm very happy that I was overruled and Deped took the Pisa. And that's important to also look at the trends and look at the other variables that we can touch and we can reform in order to improve learner outcomes. So I just want to say a few things. First, the good news, despite the pandemic, despite the struggles in pursuing learning and teaching in our schools, we did not regress. That's one piece of good news, because in my own, actually I was really concerned that we might regress, because I've seen on the ground the struggles of our teachers and principals in continuing with opening our schools and also continuing teaching our students despite the technological limitations and also a lot of limitations on the ground. Another piece of good news, I think, and I was talking to Dr. Bienviaje, that it seems to me that we have bottomed out already. In the parlance of finance, we already hit the bottom. So I think there's no way for us but to go up. So I expect that later on we'll be seeing improvements in our scores. Of course, the bad news is we have stagnated. Statistically, even though we've seen a little bit of improvement, statistically it's insignificant, meaning we've stagnated, and that's a concern for us. So just to move forward, and this is some of the things that I have in mind and some suggestions. We have to intensify our learning recovery in the next few years. I think it's important to invest in learning recovery. We estimated that we need approximately about 10 billion pesos to really roll out an intensified learning recovery in all of our almost 40,000+ schools. And it's important that we finance the learning recovery in our schools, not only using their MOE, but really supporting them with materials, with financing in order for our schools and our principals to roll out learning recovery. In the 2024 budget, I've seen that that Deped program close to about 2.9 billion in terms of learning recovery. So we still need to source about 7 billion to fully intensify the learning recovery. And that's, we need to work together to look for external financing. I see a lot of our external financiers here, our education partners. But on top of that, I'm also looking for other sources within the General Appropriations Act. For example, the contingency funds of the different departments, especially the Office of the President. We might, I think together we can convince the Office of the President to plow in more funds in order to intensify our learning recovery. Just to give you some perspective, when the pandemic hit the country bought close to about 100 billion pesos in terms of vaccines, because we treated the pandemic as urgent and something that we need to get ourselves out of. What's happening right now to us, we have to treat it the same. meaning we have to spend a lot of funds in order to intensify our programs so that we can get ourselves out of this education crisis. So it's important to spend a lot of funds in order to intensify our programs. So to end, let me express my full support. Let me express my unwavering support to the Department of Education. I know that you have already started major reforms such as the curriculum, the matatag curriculum that is being rolled out. There are other things that we can still implement and push. For example, the Excellence in Teacher Education Law, which Congressman Roman and I worked very, very hard, and also Dr. Jeannie Hoxon worked very, very hard to put this together. That's a low-hanging fruit, in my opinion, that we should activate in order to further push for reforms. But I would like to, again, express my full support to Deped's ongoing reforms. Let's not be discouraged with the results, because what's encouraging is we know the problem, we acknowledge the problem, and we are doing something to address this issue. And I've seen that we're already putting the building blocks in order to improve learner outcomes, hopefully in the next few Pisas or the next few large-scale assessments. So again, you have my support, and let's work together in order to improve learner outcomes and to improve our education system. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian, for your support to the Department of Education. We are also honored to be joined by the chairperson of the Committee on Basic Education in the Congress. Let us all welcome Congressman Roman T. Romulo as he delivers his message of support to the department.
Well, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, kay Vice President Sara, Secretary of Education, sa buong Deped family po natin, kay Senator Sen Gatchalian and the whole Senate Education Committee staff who also worked so hard even during the pandemic po, and all other education stakeholders present here this morning. Alam po ninyo, sa totoo lang, it's always a matter of perspective. When I was advised yesterday that the results would come out, and then the results were forwarded to me immediately, binasa ko naman po yung graphs. In fact, I did not need what Yusek Gina was mentioning because I read the graphs. And based on my perspective, in fact, hindi ba dapat natutuwa tayo ngayon? Hindi ba we should be celebrating? Bakit? Una, nabanggit na ng lahat, may pandemic. Pangalawa, please Google or take a look. Lahat na lang ng survey firms, lahat na may opinion, lahat ng gumawa ng studies, lahat sinabi, kawawa ang Pilipinas, longest lockdown ang mangyayari dyan, yung learning loss nila, napakalaki. Tama po yun. May nagsabi sa akin, sa isang text sa akin kanina umaga, hindi, Congressman, yung learning loss, yung re-refer nila doon, learning loss nung yung CPLM exam, yung grades 1 to 3. But reading comprehension is age appropriate. Meaning, kung naapektuhan yung 10-year-old, dapat naapektuhan yung 15 years old. We held the line. During the pandemic, when classes were practically online, many students did not have technology. Many did not even know how to use technology. We held the line. With the exception of science, insignificant as some people may want to portray it, there was an increase in reading comprehension, there was an increase in mathematics, science, insignificant yung pagbabawas doon. So again, dapat nga natutuwa tayo, we held the line compared to other countries. The sacrifices of the teaching and non-teaching personnel during the pandemic. Sinabi natin sa teaching and non-teaching personnel noon, huwag kayong pumasok. Hindi natin alam kung anong pandemic. But March 2020, when we declared walang pwedeng pumasok, walang pwedeng lumabas ng bahay, except, of course, in doctors, nurses, our teaching and non-teaching personnel, they went to the schools. Deped family, nandito rin ang Deped family. They went to this main office. Pero despite all the efforts, Lahat ng ginawa, batikos kaliwa, batikos kanan, lahat na lang parang hindi tama. But this results proves that the Deped, the education stakeholders, held the line during the time, and here we are now. As Senator Sherwin said, we can now look forward because reforms, which, ano pa po ba yung reform na na-institute after the first Pisa test? There was only one reform. Diba, Yusek Dads? That reform was reducing the number of competencies from 15,000 plus to a little more than 5,000. That was what the most essential learning competencies. Yan yung ginawa ni Secretary Briones at that time. Binatikos pa nga siya nun eh. Pero we see, it works now. But now, we have a matatag curriculum, we have catch-up Fridays, and we have many reforms in the pipeline. Everything is looking up. So we have all the reasons to smile and to be confident that we are on our way, we are on our way towards that right direction. Ang kailangan lang, tulong-tulong, we become critics of one another, but at the end of the day, sabi nga, isa lang naman ang sabi ni VP Sara kanina, isa lang naman ang patutunguhan natin lahat eh. We want quality education and we have proven we can do it. Mabuhay po education sa Pilipinas, mabuhay po ang Pilipinas.